Here we go, guys. First thing we're gonna do on the Magna is get the clutch master figured out here. See if that doesn't sound great. It's a little screechy. So as you can see, I don't know if anybody's been in here. Previous owner said he couldn't get it to build up pressure. Couldn't bleed it correctly. Well, was he in here? I don't know. This thing looks rough. So we're gonna have to get this bolt out, this screw, not a bolt. And the easiest thing right now would be to replace the whole thing. You can buy them on eBay, but let's get in here and see what's been done and what we might have to do, and then we'll just look online, see what we can find to replace it. Probably dot 4, so we'll be using dot 4 in this brake fluid. Dot 4 brake fluid. Use only dot 3 or dot 4. Oh, okay, either one then. But this is a little bent too, so if we replaced it, we'd have a new lever. I think they usually come with a lever. Brake one looks fine. So let's go ahead, probably take a screwdriver and knock it into here so I can get this out, and we'll at least see what's underneath here. Well, I kind of expected this, judging by how bad that screw was, but I just had to end up destroying it. So we destroyed the screw. This started cracking. When this stuff sits outside, it just deteriorates and goes bad. This is very soft, I don't know, metal. It's aluminum, I guess. And then the screws are just, they rust out. They're terrible. So here we are. I don't know. It looks like nobody's been in here. That's brake fluid. No wonder this wasn't working. I think we're just going to have to replace this. No big deal. But let's look inside first. Let's make sure there's no crap on top. This is all junk. This is just junk everywhere. And yeah, I can see why it may not have been able to be bled, because it looks like this thing's shot. Let's see if I can get this off there without too much trouble. That screw is just totally wasted. Alright, there we go. Wiggle it off of that dead screw. And I don't know. Did I just rip that? Nope, that's still good. Well, oh, well, no wonder this thing doesn't work. First of all, that is the dirtiest, grossest brake fluid I've ever seen. And there's none in there. So, oh gosh. There is no pressure in this system. He did say he opened it up. So I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and order a new one. They're like 30 bucks, if that. So I'll see you when that comes in. Yeah, that's not working. There's no way that's working. Before we go on, I just wanted to show you that screw came out of that hole without stripping or anything. So if we did want to reuse this, we could. So I'm going to order one, but maybe I'll play with this in the meantime and just see if we can revamp this. That's crazy. If this looks like this, I bet the slave cylinder looks delicious too. We might need a rebuild kit for that while we're at it. Today, guys, we're looking at the slave cylinder for the clutch, because while we're waiting for a new master, as we showed you, this master is cooked, gross, disgusting. I don't feel like working on that at the moment. We might be able to bleed that and see what happens, but if that looks like that, let's take a look at what is down here. We have 8mm screws on here. I was gonna say bolts, but there's not a nut on the back. Where did my 8mm socket go? Oh, here we are. All right, so there's gonna be, what, 4? To take this cover off. Whoa. All right. So guys, we have this one here, and one of these actually holds your slave cylinder in, if I'm remembering correctly, I have not done a super, so that's on the early 80s Magnas. So that's probably not true here. Here's your bleeder nipple. So that's all rusty. I'm not sure if anybody's been in here, so I'm gonna say, let's see. Nope, that one's not holding. There's 3 bolts, it looks like. I'm gonna say nobody's probably been in here. And as you're about to notice, there's probably good reason. Be very careful when you're doing this. You don't want to break any of these guys off, because then you'll have more issues than you want. I'm jumping around just to kind of just play around. You can't really grab them. I should have an extension on here, and my entire thing wouldn't be getting in the way. So this is a metal cover. I'm sure it could be cleaned up really well. Right now it's kind of seen better days. The oxidation on there. I would say this bike's probably sat outside for some part of its life, and somebody probably quit riding it because something went wrong. Maybe their clutch stopped engaging and they decided it was time to just let it sit. That's what happens to these old bikes. Life changes. People get married, people have kids, people have a bad experience on a motorcycle, people get busy, people get a new bike, and then the old one sits until they decide to dump it, especially if it was giving them issues. It's very common for a bike to sit and not get used for quite some time. And then finally someone says, hey, what are you doing with that bike? And they say, oh, you want it? You can have it for a very cheap price. It hasn't run in years. All right, I gotta get this bolt out. There we go. Okay, there's nice little retaining rubber washers on the back, so we hopefully don't lose our cover. All right, cool. So yeah, nobody's been in here. This is dirty. There is cobwebs around here. So what we're looking at is right here. This is our clutch line coming from the master. Comes right in here, banjo bolt holding it in. No one's been in here, obviously. And then here's our bleeder. What we can't do is push bad fluid down from the master, because the master won't prime. Like I said, I could try that. But at this point, let's open this up and see what we got. Are these 8s? Now I do need an extension. I gotta take this off to get to this bolt back here. So when we take the okay, gang, we are into the clutch slave cylinder. Here we are. We have 1, these are 8mm also, 2 behind the brake line, and there should be a 3rd one. Yep, right in here. So we're gonna have to take this off so I can even get this bolt out. And I don't have the proper nut size for that. So I got my 8s. I got an extension, so I'll make it easier. And let me go find probably a 12. All right, it was a 12. Got my extension on here now. Let's crack that. All right, that was easy. There, we're getting some fluid coming out already. Let's see if it's as dirty as... Huh, this looks clean. Doesn't look like what's in the master. That's strange. Okay. Yeah, whoa! Catch all that leaking out. This actually looks like cleaner fluid. That's really interesting. It can stay cleaner down through here because they probably got moisture up in the top in the meantime. All right, so there's a crush washer on both sides. We're just going to push this out of the way. Whoa. Push this out of the way and then remove our mounting bolts. There we go. Dirty, back to the 8mm. Just a note on the 87 Super Magna, probably the same on the 88. There's a bracket right here that holds that case on, the cover, this guy. And that is actually secured by our 2 bolts on the top and the bottom here. So you can actually pull them out together if you like. See, those are kind of long. So there's that guy. Let's see, we don't have any brake fluid on there, I don't think. And then this one is a little shorter. So that's the one that goes on the right side. Set them in a safe place. Now, our slave cylinder should wiggle off, I believe. Ugh. Am I missing something here?
It's annoying. It's annoying.
Let's see.
I want it to stop.
All right. Yep, she was free, just a little stuck. And just used a little bit of force, wiggle it, pull it straight out. And let's see what this slave cylinder has for us. Okay. Yes. This slave cylinder is not going to engage. No wonder your clutch isn't working, guy. So yeah, this needs rebuilt, cleaned, and everything. That is nasty. This should be actually, let me think. You push it in. I'm trying to think. If you push your fluid in, this should go this way. Yeah, because it's pushing your your rod right there through the whole engine. On the other side, it disengages the clutch. See how disgusting and grimy that is? This sucker's been leaking. I bet you this is why most bikes are set up, are laid up for a while. So there shouldn't be any brake fluid on this side of the bike, on this side of the piston. That's your piston there. And all this should be clean and just fine. But there's a seal in there, a rubber seal that dries up, and then it leaks past here, and then it doesn't hold pressure behind here, so it doesn't move your piston. So this needs cleaned up. We're gonna do that. Glad I looked at it and didn't expect anything special when I got the new master. So that needs clean. Figured that was a problem. There you go. That's the disgusting part of this bike. This piston has to be pushed across the engine. That disengages your clutch. All that crap is moisture and old brake fluid and crap. So there is a piston seal on the inside there. That looks good. I would hate to have to replace that. You're supposed to pull the engine out to do that. Most guys cut a slot in there, and I don't know. I haven't done it yet, so hopefully I don't ever have to. This is junks here. This junk can be cleaned up. This has to be cleaned up. Whoop, there you go. And then we'll put it back together and run some new fluid down through the line. And this bike with a new master should be ready to shift. The best thing about this style of slave cylinder is this hole goes straight down through there. Look, you can see that crappy fluid in there. So it's real easy to take a screwdriver through there and just tap on it until this frees up. I tried to just kind of drop it out. I think it is budging a little bit. There's a spring in there that's going to push this out as you work on it. It might be just moving a little bit. Tell you what, I'll do what I said. See, some of these have this like on the side or on the top, and there's no way to push it from there. So this, you can just tap it right down through. Look at that. It's already coming out. That gross crap. So this will clean up good. They usually do. You just get a rebuild kit for them. Comes with usually new bleeder nipple, new cap, new seal for there, new seal for the inside, and a lot of times a new spring. And then you just put it all back together. And it's good to go. Let's see, does this screwdriver fit in there? Nope, I gotta find something smaller. Doesn't have to be a screwdriver. Can be anything, really. What do we got? Got an Allen wrench. It's a little big. The one next to it where it would work though. See? So now just pop that down through. It's nice, that's rounded. Won't make a bad problem. So I'm just gonna get a hammer and tap on it till it pops out. There you go. She let loose. We can see our seal. That's our rubber seal in there. And then needs a little more persuasion. But this sucker will pop out of there. Basically just drop right out. There we go. There's the inside of the piston. All that needs cleaned out. That's disgusting. Here's our slave cylinder piston. Oh, we're just leaking brake fluid everywhere. Okay. Gross. So there she is. That's the piston. That's the piston seal. Inner lip would be thicker than the outer lip. Here's the spring. I often use those over again. Some of the newer ones don't really sit on that knob very well. This pops right off the back of your piston. There's a little raised area there. So there you go. That's your slave cylinder. We're gonna clean that up, run it through the ultrasonic cleaner, and then get a kit, put it all back together. She's all torn down. These are the parts that you can't put in the ultrasonic cleaner. They're rubber, but they're gonna be replaced anyway. Here's our piston. This sits in there to push the piston rod. And then the back, there's the spot where the spring sits on. And here is where your scraper, this guy, scraper seal goes. See, this part on the back is wider, and that would scrape and keep the fluid behind the piston where it's supposed to be. In here, kind of clean that out as quick as I could wipe it out. There is a gasket that sits in here. It's still on the bike. It's normally a rubber gasket, but this one was actually like a cardboard gasket for some reason. I don't know, usually they're rubber. And then here's your banjo or your bleeder valve. Yeah, the banjo bolt's still on the bike. I'm gonna clean this anyway because it's nice to just know that you have some clean ones around. And there's a spring. So all this is done for. We're gonna replace that. And the rest of this goes in the ultrasonic cleaner for some cleaning rounds. Continuing with our slave cylinder rebuild on the Super Magna. Here are the parts that were ran through the ultrasonic cleaner. They're still old brake crap. Brake fluid turns to dust. It didn't come off, so I got to go ahead and clean those up better with some steel wool or some sandpaper. You can see here, they don't slide very well. At this point, they're not clean enough. Still junky. Gotta line them up right. Gotta line them up so that they do. So it fits and it works. Obviously, they came out of the same thing. Whoop, see? So they do work, but needs a little help. I don't know. I guess these didn't really clean up that well in the ultrasonic cleaner. Probably because my pine sol is old and crappy. Here's our new parts. We have our new seal, our spring. Sometimes I use the old springs because they're just better. And then we don't have a new one of these. Don't have a new bleeder nipple in there. I guess I got the kit without it. So we have the seal that fits in here, the seal, the spring, and the seal that fits in this groove. Got to clean that up first. And then we have the dust cap for the bleeder nipple. So 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. And then interestingly enough, we got a bunch of others that I pulled off of bikes and ran through the ultrasonic cleaner. Different, obviously, but this one's the same. So I don't know, that might be off a Shadow, 83 Shadow 750. I'll have to see if they're the same, probably. But I don't know why they use different ones. I kind of wonder if you could interchange them, because they all have the same setup. Now, they wouldn't sit the same. Like, you see this. Let's see. This wouldn't line up just like that because the bolt pattern's different. But let's see, this sits like this on the bike, I think. If you flip it over, they might all actually line up if you put them on differently. So, interesting to note. I don't know what they're all from. I took them off or got them as parts. So anyway, I don't know. This I think is off a Saber 82 Saber. Probably would all fit if you really had to use them anyway. So I think some of them even have numbers on them. This one obviously says ME2. I haven't seen, that has a marking, but I don't know what it means. I don't think there's other markings on that. This has a marking also. Not sure what that means. So anyway, here's our parts. I'm gonna take some steel wool, take some sandpaper to them, clean them up, spray them out, dust them off, make sure all the holes are open, and we'll get back to getting that Super Magna to run. Here we're gonna dig out and clean up this sucker here. You can use brake fluid cleaner, or I'm sorry, you can use parts cleaner, but you don't want to get that seal in the back. See that seal around the piston here? You don't want that. You want to just avoid getting anything that could dry that up or mess that up. So I'm just gonna take some paper towels here, screwdriver, and kind of wipe around here and see what we get. Not a new paper towel, that'd be a waste. This stuff's pretty solid. So we're gonna need something. So I'll probably spray my towel and wipe it off. This shaft will come out. You can take it out from either side, this side or the clutch side. So right now, yeah, I'm gonna need to, I guess you could see, I wanna see what it would look like if we scraped it. There you go. That's what's, oh, sorry. That's what's for dinner. Look at that crusty stuff. That's the brake fluid that seeped past the seal. This happens an awful lot on bikes that sit. Bikes that get set up. Oh, there's my gasket. I don't want to rip up my gasket. It doesn't really seal anything in there, but I don't have a new one. And usually they're rubber. This one's paper. That's weird. So anyway, I'm gonna scrape this stuff out, and then maybe we'll just take a little sandpaper in around there and really get them cleaned up. But for now, this is what we got. So I'll keep doing this. Maybe I'll take a little, like I said, take a rag and get some brake cleaner on it, try to wipe that up. If I can get this off without breaking it, it would be good, because I will put it back on. I saw that it was gonna break on this corner. Sorry, I'm really into this. I'm not paying attention to where the camera is. I'm gonna break it. I don't wanna break it. If I can just leave it on there, that'd be great. All right, I'm gonna keep working on this. See, you can get it off. Be very careful. Might be able to. Nah, it's pressed on where the bolts sit pretty good, so I doubt I'm gonna be able to salvage that. It's not a fan of coming off. All right, I'm gonna keep working on this, clean this up. All right, we got a good cleanup. I just scraped all that out, and I see there's more. It does worry me a little bit that that seal is so oily. I don't know that that seal's any good now. Can't tell if it's ripped or anything. See, that's directly into the engine. So what would be good to do, I might be able to seal that off with some, if I clean that up, it doesn't actually look ripped. Might be able to clean that up and just seal around the outside. The other option is to do the keyhole method, if you know what I'm talking about. But I've never done it, and I don't really want to today. I just want this to be dry. All right, so this seal might be shot. I'm gonna try to dry it up and see what happens. Try to just sop it up a little bit. You ever pull one of these rods out? It's interesting because it just goes through the engine, so there's a bunch of moisture that gets in there, and they get kind of gross, or they stay clean. Looks like it's pretty clean. All right, just a little bit of dirt on the end here. Good. That tells me the seal might be okay if there's not a bunch of moisture inside. All right, I'm gonna sop that up and maybe it'll look dry tomorrow, and that's what I'm going for. All right, so I took a little brake cleaner around, and look at this. Sorry, I took out the rod. See, there we go. And if you look at this, our seal is busted. See that right there at the bottom? Our seal is broken. Guys, do you know what that really means? That means you gotta take this engine apart and replace this from the other side of this case. That's what you're supposed to do with this. But you know what? There's other options. Some options tell you to cut a little slit here, and you can take this out and replace it. Other options tell you to probably just put a little JB weld. I don't know if JB weld would do it. Put a little, I don't know, something. It's very oily right there. So this is our problem. That's why we're oily in here. I think she should still function, but we're gonna get oil in here and then it's gonna seep out through. There is a weep hole. There's a little hole on the bottom here to let stuff out. And that's why this looks dirty. So the question remains, what do we do with that? Our clutch should still work. We shouldn't have a problem with that. But we want this to be clean. Stay clean anyway. So I don't know if I can get this dry enough that I can get anything to stick on there. Maybe some gasket maker. Maybe we can get some gasket maker or some like I said, I don't know. There's gotta be a way without getting too involved here to make this seal continue to work. So if you have any ideas, let me know. This will be for another time. I'm not interested in replacing this, but plenty of guys have, so maybe we'll do it. But for right now, maybe we can get it to dry up and yeah, make it functional again. So now we just slide our shaft back through. This is the shaft that pushes on the clutch on the other side. So when you push your clutch in, it pushes our piston, and this pushes in and releases the plates. All right, guys, so I cleaned this up with steel wool, made it all smooth inside. Cleaned this up with steel wool, made it all smooth outside, and now she's moving quite freely, I'd say. All right, so that's done. Good to go. So what we need to do next, oh, there's the nipple. Make sure your hole from the middle here is free. Make sure this is all cleaned out too, because right here, that goes down, and that's where your fluid is gonna come out if you bleed it. So you need to make sure, obviously this is open and clean, because that's where your banjo bolt goes on. fluid comes in the back. And then if you're gonna bleed it, you gotta make sure this little hole right here on the edge is open to the top. So run a piece of guitar string or wire through there. Mine's kind of crappy. I wish I had a new one, but I don't. So there we go. Next thing to do, piston. Make sure those holes are clear and open. Usually they are. The first thing we're gonna do, because I can do it with one hand, here's my old spring, there's my new spring. They're pretty much the same. New spring has a little bit more travel, so this is a little bit worn out. If this sits on the end, they're good. It's going on the other side of the piston, the non-dry side. So yeah, that fits on there pretty good. I'll take that. Sometimes they're loose and I just use the old spring. Okay, so that's ready to go. Next thing we can do, well, now it's not gonna sit for me. This little seal right here, this is just so the piston sits in there correctly. Not a major concern, but you want that to be clean, just so everything lines up right. I'm gonna squish that down in there. Just squish it down. You might need to work it around properly. It's not fitting in there without two hands, so that's basically what you want it, but you want it flush with the top. So I'm gonna work on that. Oh, this has to go on if you're gonna use it before you screw this down. Get this up here. Basically, it's a cap for this. So that fits on top anyway. And then put the screw end through there. I'll show you, like this. Just like that. Slide that up there. And that's good to go. It's twisted. You don't need it to be twisted, because then it won't screw in correctly. So just make sure it's sitting up here in the groove, out of the way, so everything twists down just fine. All right, there we go. Much better. Okay, you can screw that down. See how that, you'll screw that in, that'll stay on there. And just flip it up around and cover that hole so dirt and dust doesn't get in there. Okay, that done. This guy, he's your most important part here, because you don't need this being a problem. So this is going to go in here. The fluid has to stay on the bottom side, so you want your thicker lip to be on there. So you're going to start this. Can't do this with one hand probably. That's going to fit in this groove. So start it here, work it around, and I'll show you when it's done. It's going to sit on there just like that. All right, this piston's all kind of set up. Got the spring, got the seal, scraper seal. See, it's going to hold this stuff back, and the little seal that goes in the middle. Whack that down with the top of the screwdriver real carefully. So then this is ready to go in the bore. But I am going to put just a slight bit of brake fluid on the inside here, so this slides down and starts easily. That's just what I like to do. Putting it in dry, you might roll it. You don't want it to roll. So it's gonna slide a little bit. Then once you get it in there, go poof, and you'll know it's in. There we go, and this one's ready to work again. All right, slid her in with a little bit of brake fluid on there, and she's good as new. All right, so as easy as this would be to throw right back in here, all clean, we still have this leaking oil seal to work on, and I don't feel like doing everything I need to do. So I'm gonna soak that up. I already did, but it's still kind of weepy. But what I'm gonna try to do is throw some gasket maker in around there to keep that from leaking. Really, other than oil building up behind there and keeping the piston from moving back and forth, it shouldn't be that big a deal, other than some of this oil could make its way and drip down over the bike. So at this point, I don't think I'm that worried about it. It is a problem. So what we would have to do is cut 2 slots and then rip that old seal out and slide in a new one. And at this point, I'd like to try to resist doing that. So I'm just gonna put some gasket maker in there and hopefully can make it seal up and not have to worry about it. The tear is right there at the bottom. You can see it with the oil collected there. And really, I don't know where the oil is coming from because this has not been driven or run. So I seal it up and let this, this actually dries pretty quick in the warm. And 24 hours of cure time. All right, so we'll put some of this on and hopefully put it back together. That should seal up the rip in the gasket and made sure it wasn't in the way of the rod going through. So hopefully that solves the issue, and if not, we have to go back in anyway. So we'll let this set up.